Adoption day wasn't really the happiest day.
You were emotional.
I was super emotional.
For so many years, I had always been a believer that adoption is the best thing in the world, right? And then I kind of realized along the way, as I got older, that yes, adoption can be a positive thing, but it's so deeply filled with trauma that I never really evaluated that side of things.
Hey, I'm glad that Neiko's out of the system. So I was happy that Neiko was becoming my son legally, but I always felt that way. I was connected to him that way already. But with that, this loss happened of a mother not having any legal rights to her child.
I never really gave up my rights. They were taken from me, from him being in the system for so long. I knew it was coming one day, but I just didn't know when.
No, Nick, don't do that. Yeah.
Why, Daddy? Why do I can't do it?
Just get in the car, bro. When I met Neiko, I didn't know he was in foster care. One day I was just in the daycare, hanging out with the kids, and Neiko and I just kind of had like a really good bond. Like I felt really attached to him, and I'm not sure why I did. I just did, and I was just like, man, this child is like, really like something about him is just with me. I don't know why. Like it's nothing like this has ever happened to me.
Right,
So I'm
you
like,
played with hundreds of kids.
Right.
You've cared for
right,
lots.
Yeah, lots.
Bruce is really the one that was bringing up foster care. He was bringing up this idea of expanding our family in this way. And I was just like, no, I don't. I remember just at that point, I was just very, not all adoption is good adoption. I think I was coming to terms with the complexity. But ultimately, I didn't know if I would be good at the reality of how difficult adoption is. And even foster care, the real difficulty of foster care.
Happy birthday! Let's go! Let's go! Yeah! Happy birthday! Hey! Happy birthday, Neiko! I've always wanted to foster. The goals were unification, so it would be, we didn't have any kids at the time. It was like, oh, we have space. We have
care for kids.
Yeah, we could care for kids. Like we care for kids every day. And then they were like, well, if it goal is changed to adoption, would you guys be open to it? And we were like, yeah, sure, we'd be open to it. So it kind of happened like that. So it was just like, whoa, like this kid is now at my house. And yeah, so.
Bruce and I had to have a lot of conversations because I am an adoptee and he is not. And so in the beginning, it was me trying to educate him on what that trauma looks like of losing your first family. But I think that there was still this concept of permanency where he was still probably, like a lot of foster parents, was still believing that he would grow so attached.
Take your time. Take your time. There you go.
I was trying to give him insight and saying, if you think that this will lead to permanency with Neiko being in our family, we have to get out in front of everything and make decisions early on that allow for the possibility of openness.
Are you recording that?
Chunky. And then it's laughing.
All right, Dr. Seuss, green eggs and ham. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam. I am. Would you like them?
When I got pregnant, I was very grief-stricken in probably the first trimester of my pregnancy because it was just so overwhelming. Really just made me have to think about my Oma, my Korean mother. Just everything that she must have went through as I was growing inside of her, and then knowing ultimately that she would make the choice to give me up. When I became pregnant, all I could see was pain and suffering from her.
On her part.
On her part.
Like whether she chose to relinquish
Yes.
you or
Yes.
something else happened
Right.
where she had to.
Right.
What you were experiencing was like,
It was just deep, deep sadness at first, you know, and it was weird because it was simultaneously a lot of joy. I was so overwhelmed and happy about being pregnant, but it was really deeply saddening. Where are you running?
now that Zephaniah's here, he's like the first person that you've ever seen that looks like you.
Me. Yeah.
And he really looks like you.
Yeah. When he came out, like I knew, I was like, wow, my genes are very strong, because I looked down at his eyes and I looked down, you know, just at his little face, and I just knew, I was like, this is part of me.
Hi, boobies.
Mommy. Mommy.
What you doing? Well, Neiko is my second child.
What you been doing?
I was going through some rough times when he came into the world, but I had him up until 2 weeks before his first birthday. And then that's when everything happened where he got took from me. I was using or whatever, but that like wasn't the issue part of it. It was the fact of me being homeless. I've been homeless since 2011, like bouncing around from different houses and stuff.
Well, we met Bryan really briefly at an interactional. So that's where psychologists sit and evaluate your interactions with the child that is potentially going to be adopted. It's a part of the termination of parental rights process, actually. They want to see how the child is bonded. They wanted to evaluate Bruce and myself with Neiko. And then later that day, they wanted to evaluate Bryan and Neiko. So our first meeting
It sounds like a
was
competition.
really difficult.
You got a car wash?
How can you in that moment
form
any type of relationship when you're already like us versus her?
Oh.
That's where I felt as though that's where the system has to change, because that shouldn't have been our initial meet.
There you go.
This is
After that, the next interactions we had were in court.
Yeah.
Also not a great place
No,
to build a
this isn't-
relationship,
right.
because we're talking about issues that are related to, you know, all
termination of rights.
yes,
of
the term
severing-
yes, exactly, of
That's-
severing that tie, and then the judge wants to know who we are, and that, you know, and it just again becomes this: we're here, she's over there.
I see a sign.
You saw this hat?
That might have been a little bit of a rough start, but Neiko needs so much more than my discomfort.
When I just recently went to jail this last time, within that time, they let me know like we did the adoption.
You
and
got adopted when you were in jail.
Yeah, and they was like, we did the adoption, but it happened so fast, we had to hurry up and do it or whatever. And I was like, I mean, that's cool. Like I knew it was coming one day, but I just didn't know when.
The Act 101 in the state of Pennsylvania is basically allowing for mediation services for pre-adoptive families, that are really moving towards adoption, and then the biological family.
To meet together.
To meet together in a very professional, neutral space. The purpose is to get together and have a conversation to potentially build relationship that will help the child in the future. And so I had just prepared myself because I just didn't know if she was coming in wanting to fight or what. And I wouldn't blame her if she wanted to fight because that's her son. And I remember the first point of connection that I made with her in that conversation was that I value you as Neiko's mother. And I know that that role will never, ever be taken away from you in the sense of what you are in his heart. There was a moment of relief in her because I think that she had come ready to say, I am his mother.
Having to fight to be seen.
I am his mom.
Right.
And I told her, I was like, I'm adopted, Bryan. I know more than you would think.
Yes, I know what it's like to have two moms.
About having two moms. But when we opened it up based on that premise and gave back some of the power that had been stripped of her, she became so much more open to hear what we had to say.
That was a very hard situation for me right there. Until me and Miss Emily, Mr. Eric too, we all went out to eat and we talked. And they said we would never keep him from you. We want you to be a part of our family just like he is.
Yesterday when Bryan got here and Neiko ran up to her, how does that make you feel?
Just to see that she's she she can be with her son, that's really, it makes me so happy.
I know that Neiko sees such a strong role model in his dad, but he knows that he can feel emotions too. It's been really a pleasure to watch Neiko's need for his dad and my husband's need for his sons in that way. Kids, you're shaping them, you're bringing them up, you're helping them grow, whatever, but really they're changing you more than you're changing them.
It's been a rough road, it really has, but I'm grateful for Miss Emily and Mr. Eric. They don't try to keep Neiko from me. They try to make sure I'm involved in everything that he does.
No matter what's happened in the past, she's Neiko's mom. I'm raising him to honor his mother, and in that I have to honor her too.
We're mothers to the same child, and we just have this sisterhood almost. And that has been built over time, and we love each other.
People think that they own kids, but I don't believe that. We're here to steward children. More love is not hurting anyone. People are like, oh, well, they're a safety risk. I'm like, you can't meet at a Starbucks in a public area. There's always a way. But it's only if you really want there to be a way, and you're humble enough to hear your child call someone else mom or dad.
Bruce is just, his arms are just so endlessly big.
Literally
and figuratively. He is really the guiding factor when it comes to the embracing and the inclusivity of everything.
At the end of the day,
he knows he's loved.
He's loved. Just more love.